Great.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
show, folks. Oh, Brian, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
This was a
absolutely.
lot of
Thanks for
fun.
having me. It's fun.
We were drawing up guests we wanted to have on, and you were very high on the list. We're just like, oh man, we got to get Brian. It'd be so much fun to talk to him, and you were great. It was just like, oh, he probably won't respond on Twitter. And you were just like, hell yeah, man, just hit me up right here.
I'm really glad you're streaming a lot of Hearthstone now too. You stream at a good time for me to watch because I get to work at like 9, and then you generally seem to come on right around like 10. And usually around then, like my choices are like only Trump or like the tail end of a Maz's stream, and sometimes Forsen, I guess too. But they're all in weird time zones, and you're like just fresh and ready to go at that time. So I've been checking your stream out a lot lately.
Yeah, I mean,
Good
I've
stuff.
been really enjoying it. You know, I've you know, decided it was something that I wanted to just pursue more because it's a lot of fun. I enjoy, obviously, really enjoy playing games, and I actually kind of wonder like what if I had like, you know, if Twitch and YouTube and all this had like existed 10 years ago when I was sort of, you know, at that point was just playing games full time for a living.
Yeah.
Well, you know, how would, you know, I have, you know, sort of progressed in life from there, you know, because it's
Well,
like
how
this
would
is
Magic have progressed too?
right.
Because
Oh,
I feel like that
absolutely.
client not being that great was not a big deal before.
I feel like you'd make a big circle of your friends, and you would all have 2 camera setups where you have your webcam like facing your desktop, and then one at your face, and you would actually just play live paper Magic. Which is
Is
something.
there okay, Brian? I have a question. Is there word from Wizards that they're gonna make a better client at some point? Is this like
I
on the
mean,
table?
the thing is like the current Magic Online client is the new client.
Oh
You know,
no,
it was in beta for like 2 years, and this is what they came out with.
this is
And
what then. Okay,
I mean, I have, you know, I love Magic. You know, Magic has been a huge part of my life for a long time, but Magic Online has just been, it's been really bad for a
yeah.
while now.
So
And
let me tell my story of Magic Online. Is we were like, okay, we're gonna play. We could play against each other, but like we don't have a lot of cards. So let's go and we'll just buy these commander decks because it's like now we can just play against each other, right? With these commander decks, full deck, 100 cards already made. We don't have to think about it too much, and it's a fun kind of way to play, right?
Mhm.
The person I'm playing against, Jocelyn, who's usually on the show, her commander card requires her to move counters from it and then either do damage with them or put them on other cards or like draw cards with them or something like that. So I'm like, okay, so you probably just have to right click it, select the thing you want to do. And then she gets to that point, she's like, yeah, now I can't do anything. There's no more options.
I
So
can't figure
basically
it out.
her whole deck is useless because there's no way to decide what to then do with the counters she selected. And I was like,
So
it was just terrible.
there's like a big there's like this like online to offline Magic tournament series called the Magic Online Championship Series. And it, you know, it's basically the idea of it is to reward people for playing competitively on Magic Online because, you know, for the most part, Magic Online doesn't really translate to the big tournaments that exist in paper Magic.
Yeah.
But the Magic Online Championship Series is if you accumulate enough points from doing well in events over the course of a month, you can qualify for one of these, and you play in it, and the winner qualifies for the Magic Online Championships, which is a big tournament with like a 30,000, 20,000 something dollar first prize.
Uh-huh.
And I rarely played in any of these Magic Online Championship Series qualifier things because, you know, I would be traveling so much for events. But there was one, it was actually a little over a year ago, that I was like, okay, you know, I'm actually in town, I'm going to play in this. You know, I'm going to try and qualify for this tournament because I've never played in it before. It's one of the very few types of tournaments in Magic that I haven't played in. And I was 7-0 in the tournament, undefeated, locked for the top 8, even if I lost my next round. And the program crashed. The servers crashed.
Oh man.
The Magic On went down, and by the time I got back on, I had been timed out of my match and dropped from the tournament. And they didn't have any sort of way to recreate the tournament from that point.
Oh my god.
And basically, they were just like, "Well, we're going to do it again. We're going to, you know, do a makeup tournament for anyone who was, you know, 4-2 or better or something next week." And I was like, "A, I'm playing another tournament next week in real life, so I just can't play." And B, I was guaranteed in the top 8.
Yeah.
I was, you know, I needed to win 3 matches from this point to qualify for the Magic Online Championships. And I went on a rampage of sorts, you know, because I was just like, this is absurd. And I wrote this article for my website. Actually, it's I think still one of the highest trafficked articles on my website, which was just the Magic Online Championship Series should not exist. And the point of it was basically, if you're going to offer things that you can't legitimately compensate for, and you don't have the tools to actually structure these events that if something goes wrong, you can fix it. You just shouldn't run these events. It's just disastrous. And then literally the next day, they had like an online Pro Tour qualifier, and the servers also crashed. So in the span of like 2 days, like all their premier events just like were just a total disaster. And like a week later, they just took all their major events down, and we're like, okay, we're not running these until we can run them better. And things are at least stability wise, things are better than they were before, but it's still just not good.
Yeah. I'll go on there every now and then. I'll do like a draft because I don't know enough about Magic and I want to learn more, and it's tough to go out and play when I don't know people who play, and I can go to the little store or whatever, but I don't know any of those people. It's kind of intimidating. I'll say this: Magic is intimidating compared to Hearthstone.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and online it's so much.
Yeah,
I really think that online is even worse compared to in person. I much prefer paper Magic. I feel much more comfortable like in my skin whereas when I'm playing Magic Online, I'm so afraid I'm going to accidentally hit the wrong F key and pass my whole turn when I meant to just skip, go to next step.
Oh, I've done that many times.
So have I. 'Cause, I mean, you've got the something about, and also the fact that you're just always looking at the timer. If you're playing in a live event, you have to turn your head and look across the room. Okay, there's the timer, but it's just always there, and you're just constantly freaking out as this timer ticks down. So yeah, Magic Online is just it's a stressful environment. I love that it exists because it's 1-2-1. It is proper Magic. It's not Duels of the Planeswalkers, which I think is kind of a gimped form. But it is, oh man, it leaves so much to be desired. And actually, Dills, and we're still streaming, so Chad, if you're hanging out and you want to dive a little deeper on this, there is a podcast called The One for One, run by Marshall Sutcliffe, who does Limited Resources and Now Constructed Resources, the best damn Magic podcast out there. They're amazing. But the One for One is the One for One is an interview series he does, and his very first episode is with John Laux. And they go so heavy into Magic Online and compare it directly to Hearthstone. And it's super interesting. I highly recommend it.
I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, that just whole experience with the commander thing and just not being able to use the count. It was like the whole deck was just couldn't play. That's her commander card. Couldn't figure out how to make the stupid counters go anywhere. It was just yeah.
Yeah. No,
I'm so glad Hearthstone came along though, because I really hope that this just forces people to step their game up when it comes to this kind of stuff. Yeah. Soulforge works really well too. I mean, so I don't know.
Well, that's one of the things that's brought up in that episode with Marshall and John Laux is that Magic had to go from paper and work into online, and the fact that they're at the mercy of the paper Magic release schedule because nothing is going to stop Wizards from putting paper Magic out at the speed that they want to put it out. So the Magic Online crew is just clinging on for dear life. If they introduce a new mechanic that is just insane on the programming end, they just have to hammer through it. They have to figure it out.
That's one of the things. Like I got some insight into that. Like talking to like John Laux and some other people who've been on that team, and it sounds like their communication between the actual designers and the people who work on Magic Online just isn't as good as it needed to be, or at least wasn't prior to some of this just sort of coming to light. For instance, like they had a card in one of the recent sets, Whims of the Fates, that you would divide your permanents into 3 different piles, and then one of them randomly was destroyed, and you kept the others. And this was because this was separate into 3 choose one at random. It was just an interfacing that had never been done before in Magic Online, and it turned out to be like a huge problem for them to actually implement. Like it took tons of their time. And this is time that can be used to actually do productive things in the client rather than program this like just wacky one-of card in the set. And if that card didn't exist, it's like, well, maybe you could have some of these features that otherwise don't exist. And if you had the communication between the design team and the Magic Online team at some level, that's like well before they're sort of done with the design of the paper cards, it's like, okay, well, this is what we want to do. What could be a problem here? And that's something that comes up all the time when working on digital stuff like Soulforge. We have to constantly be communicating with our programmers of like what is possible, what are we able to do, and I mean, obviously it's different because we can't make things that don't work digitally like Magic can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just hopeful that that because I like the game a lot. I'd like to have a good client. I'd like to see Magic get watched a lot more on Twitch and stuff too, because And the game itself is so great. And
Oh yeah,
I didn't
I
know.
love Magic. Magic's a fantastic game, and it's just not a very good video game right now. So
Yeah. That's a really important distinction to make because a lot of the folks that listen, I think they're kind of like you, does. We have a ton of listeners who came from WoW and started playing Hearthstone. They skipped everything in between, and I damn near did. I mean, I haven't been playing Magic that long.
Well, if you play WoW and then suddenly you find out Ragnaros is a card I could play, let's go! I want to play that.
stuff in like WoW now, the latest expansion, right? I heard that you can get like an autographed Hearthstone card as a loot.
Yeah,
item.
Ben Brode walks around in your garrison.
Yeah.
And actually, he's Ben Brode, but he looks like a lumberjack. But he sells you like
kind
a
of looks like
Hearthstone.
a lumberjack because he's always wearing flannel shirts.
I was about to say he's
I guess
always
that's true, yeah.
he's either a lumberjack or the missing cousin member of Nirvana.
He's the laughing brother. He's who actually Gisera would give you in that case.
Oh, it's the laughing sister. Yeah, you have the Ben Brode card. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah, it's funny how the two games are now starting to influence each other. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really play, and Brian, we're actually the same age. I remember being 14 and watching like kids in my math class playing Magic, and being like, I want to play that, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know how it's working. They keep turning the cards sideways. What does that even mean? And then I never played card games.
Right.
I was playing punk rock instead.
We were talking about how like Magic can be pretty intimidating, and it's certainly true. And
Yeah.
that's one of the great things about digital games is that you can have a very good like ramp up intro period. Like the tutorial in Hearthstone is fantastic, and you can play against the computer before you ever have to play against another person and feel foolish because you don't know what you're doing. That's a huge part of sort of the intimidation factor of like learning new games for people, and being able to remove that because you were just sitting in front of a monitor or an iPad or whatever, and learning to play on your own and not feeling foolish when you make a mistake because no one's watching. It's just a computer. Having that a way to ease you in makes it so much less intimidating.
It's funny because even as good as it is, people still like they switch from that into like the ladder, and then they get destroyed by some guy who has a bunch of really good cards at rank 20, and then they get intimidated by that. It's like
yeah. I mean, there's
doing
a
the
big difference
best you
between
can.
understanding just what's going on and like just at a baseline level. Like I get what this game's about.
Sure.
As opposed to like okay, I'm good at this game.
Sure.
There's a big step there.
Yeah.
And it depends what people are what people's goal is. If someone is just coming in and they just whatever, they enjoy having fun. Like one of the guys who I work with, who's one of our graphic designers, his goal just each month is he just wants to get to rank 20 for the new card back. He plays arena and he doesn't necessarily do great, but he has fun. And there's just very different mentalities among gamers, and like the Hearthstone does allow you to if you're super competitive, it's like, all right, you can go for #1 legend. That can be your goal. And if you just are looking to try out cool things, express your creativity, it's like, all right, you can build your Ancestors Call deck or whatever it is that strikes your fancy.
Yeah, we have some people who listen to our show who like Sparky. He only plays Warrior. That's all he plays. Just Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Want to just
that's actually
class.
That's actually one of the things that I think is a problem with the last hero standing format. Like there are definitely people, like in Magic, for instance, I'm really well known for playing green decks. Basically all of my big tournament successes, in recent history have been with green decks. It's what I tend to build in every format. And, in Hearthstone, because of the last hero standing format, there's no real, like, identity to players, at least at a tournament level. You have players, it's like, okay, well, maybe Strife Pro is really well known for playing Druid, but he just doesn't play Druid in tournaments because maybe Druid,
not going to win the tournament. Yeah.
Well, but, like, maybe it's one of his decks, but maybe he doesn't even, necessarily play it in the matches that he wins. Like, Firebat won the World Championships. What's the story of Firebat's World Championships win? Well, I don't know. He like, there's no like real narrative about what his decks were or whatever. It's just like, well, he had this deck, which he won some in this match in this deck. Even like looking at the decks after a tournament, you don't even know which decks they won with. You have to like do a lot of research. Is this deck even good? I don't know. It was one of his decks. Did he ever win a match with it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Whereas like
out of like a practice tournament,
where you play like one deck and it's like, okay, well, this is the deck that won. Abzan won the Pro Tour. It's like, oh well, that's a sweet deck. I'm going to play it. Versus like this collection of 4 decks. Maybe he didn't even ever play this deck because it was banned every round. It's like there's this weird dynamic there that really messes up the narrative, I think.
Yeah, the best deck never even gets played. It's always banned.
And the thing is based on Warcraft, and as a WoW player since vanilla, that's a huge thing about WoW.
People have identities,
right?
They're like, yeah.
Like I am a paladin, like, but
I'm a hunter.
I feel
like I was helping my fiance Natalie. I was helping her, like learn Hearthstone, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do arena." She's like, she pulls it up. It's like, which should I pick? I'm like, which do you want to pick? She's like, I want to play Druid. That's what I played in WoW. And it's like, that's exactly how people approach the game. Like they want to have their deck that they feel, at least that's the way at least people, tons of people play Magic. There's lots of people who just have their deck. They don't care about what's good at any given time. They have their deck. And if there was like an event they could play in, they'd probably just go and play their deck if they could.
Yeah, I always gravitate towards white in Magic, and I think that's why I really liked Priest in the early stages in Hearthstone, because it kind of felt like that. It kind of had that healing synergy and whatnot. But
yeah, I just hope the tournament scene evolves into that, because it is very cool. I really want to see Blizzard just put tournaments into the game, like a poker lobby.
I really think that having even if they're not like prize tournaments, even if they're just like whatever they are, like even just having an in-client interface that people can build their own tournaments to use, so we don't have disasters like the Good Gaming tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the sort of thing that would definitely improve a lot of people's experience, because that's the single biggest thing that I think is a strike against the last hero standing format, is that it's such a departure from the way that people normally play the game.
Sure.
I had a lot of friends who were qualified for like the last call tournament for the BlizzCon qualifiers, because they had reached legend or whatever, and when they found out that it was you have to have 4 decks or whatever, or 3 decks, and there's this thing, they're like, oh, I only ever play 1 or 2 decks, so I'm just not
like,
even
I played
playing
Control Warrior all the way.
Right,
to the
exactly.
Top of the
It's like,
so,
this is my friend Patrick. He has played Magic for forever. He's like works on games. He commentates for like live Magic tournaments for SCG Live. He's like, yeah, I have like a Zoo deck that I play, a Warlock deck, and that's all I ever play. It's all I ever have built. Like it also the last year standing format also dramatically increases just the barrier to entry, like money or dust or whatever wise, to just be able to participate at a baseline.
Sure.
You have to
have so many cards. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I really don't like the fact that once you lose the first game, it's like, well, now I just pick the deck that counters the deck I lost to, rather than
that's also super lame. You end up with all these super polarized matchups as opposed to just like interesting close games.
It's like whoever chooses which deck they play the best is the one who actually wins, not the guy who played the best once he started.
Like I think that, like, for instance, like some people who did well in this format, it's like they're good at game theory. They're not even necessarily that great at Hearthstone. Maybe I'm sure they are, but like
they don't make mistakes.
The single most important skill is actually not necessarily playing the game. It's being able to, okay, well, if he does this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. It's like, why is that what we're emphasizing?
We're emphasizing the percentages counter, of matchup.
Right, and it's like that's not the fun thing that's happening here.
Yeah. All right, before we let you go, Brian, hold up those cards and show us the Kibler Shuffle for the people out there. I want to see it too. I don't understand what's happening. I've seen you do this.
Okay, here, I'm actually needing to make like a tutorial video. I'll do a very brief one right here. So, the basic motion is just the back and forth like this.
Okay.
Like, that's like super simple. You can obviously just see this.
Yeah, you got the up and down though too.
The up and down is actually, I have the cards like this, and I have my thumb here pressing against them, and I'm pulling the back ones up and over.
Ah, okay.
Then you just speed it up to an absurd degree.
And then you just go to mind-numbing levels. All right.
Wow.
I'll say this. I play poker and stuff, so I'm decent with cards. But when I started playing Magic, I felt like all of a sudden like I was fumbling cards again. I was like, I couldn't shuffle with the sleeves on and everything. I was like, this is so weird.
That's how it was at first too, and now I can't shuffle without the sleeves. Like I lose my mind without them.
I like the 5 cards in sleeves that are like slightly but not very worn is like just my natural state. I actually also just like compulsively shuffle anything that's in my hands. Like if I have like credit cards or like room keys out of a hotel or bar coasters, those are getting shuffled.
I have a stack of old business cards right here that's I call it my busy box when I'm podcasting. This is the quiet thing I can play with while I'm podcasting. Oh man, this has been a fun. I gotta go
pack for Seattle. I'm leaving really friggin' early.
Oh, I didn't know you were heading to Seattle. Oh yeah, holidays.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Normally I have another podcast to do. Today I don't, but I'm flying at like 5 a.m. or something.
Oh god.
I don't know why I do this to myself. Every single time I buy the ticket, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna save like $40, and then I like get up.
Yeah, and I'm gonna cost myself so much agony.
Yeah, I would gladly pay $40 tomorrow at 3 a.m. when I'm getting up. Then yeah. But anyway, I gotta go do that. Thanks again for coming on the show, Brian. That was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely, my pleasure. Had a lot of fun.
Stuff, dude. Hopefully we can do it again sometime, man.
Yeah, for sure.